And the hardest part is leaving people like that, because I cannot tell you how much she changed my life. She awakened something in me that will never go away. Welcome to Real Talk. This is future Luke hopping in here while I'm editing this nice ramble I went on after my trip, after the events of the film that I just spent months creating. And I wanted to hop in and tell you exactly what this podcast and show is going to be about. I briefly mention it in episode 1, but as I've been building this brand, the identity has become even more clear. And I want to mention, you're going to see my face a lot. This is Real Talk with me, Luke Hutcheson. I'm your host, and I have stories to tell. But there's so many more stories outside of what I can personally tell. And what makes me most excited for this particular journey of this show and the brand as a whole is having a chance to tell all of these stories in the most honest and unfiltered way that we possibly can. And this is going to be a journey, as I say, and I'm very prepared for that journey. I'm very excited for it, but it takes all of you. The people that are watching this, your stories are the ones that will transform not only this brand, but will feed the mission of what I believe this can be. So, I'm going to briefly tell you, you can go to realstories.media, the hub of everything real, and I encourage you to look around, but more importantly, share your story. I'm looking for anyone who's willing to tell me their story, whether they want to attach their name to it or if they want to remain in anonymity for perpetuity. It's your story. If you would like me to tell it, I'm happy to, but I'm more than honored to give you the chance to tell it yourself. So, take a look there, and with that said, welcome to Real Talk, episode 1. And welcome to Real Talk. This is a podcast and show that I've been dreaming of, and it's the start of a brand called Real. Real is my vision for what I believe media and stories can do. It's my belief that real, authentic, empathic, honest, raw human experiences have the capacity to change the world. And in full, what Real represents is the capacity to look at ourselves honestly, for me to tell stories honestly that can help myself and others see themselves in a different way. That's what I'm about. That's what this brand is about. This show is not going to be just about me, even though you're going to see my face a lot. It's going to be about people. It's going to be about humans. It's going to be about what we experience, as raw and as vulnerable as I can make it. And it's going to be a journey. I'm going to get better at this, better at capturing what that is over time. But that's the vision. And since you're going to see my face a lot, I'm Luke. I am a 24-year-old trying to make it work out in this world, trying to live out his dreams. I'm originally from Colorado, which is actually where I'm at right now. But I've spent the past 3 years in California. And while I've been dreaming and cooking this idea for this brand and show in my head, I thought it was fitting to start it at the start of a new chapter for me. A new chapter in Colorado for me, which is where I grew up and where I'm from, and to bring you along a story of what California was for me and where I'm headed now as I am finishing the transition from California to Colorado. So for those who don't know, I got to California in August of 2022. At the time, I was in a relationship of going on 2 years. And I moved there because I wanted to get out of Colorado. I was just ready to experience something new. And I always loved California as a kid because I played water polo in Colorado, which is a very rare thing. And so I always wanted to go to California. It was a childhood dream of mine. And I got the opportunity when I was in that relationship because she was originally from California, and I took it. And I left Colorado, I packed everything, and went on a giant road trip. I went through, I think, 7 different national parks, if I remember correctly, and that is an experience I will never forget. And as I got to California, it took a while to settle in. But more than that, in starting in 2023, the relationship I was in was ending. And that forced me to look in the mirror at the life that I had, or where I was. And at the time, I was losing that relationship, the first serious relationship I'd had. So if anyone has gone through heartbreak of your first relationship, it is excruciating. It challenges who you are, or who you thought you were going to be, because my whole life was about that relationship. I was ignorantly in love, but that's how I knew it to be. And so when that relationship started to end, I was in a brand new state. I had no friends. All I had was me. And I went on a journey. I journaled throughout that time. Those entries are a little sad to read back on, but they're really informative to what I went through and the pain I was going through. But during that journey, I remember a specific moment that I was talking to my therapist at the time. And when I just remember talking to that therapist, and I was like, look, the way I see things right now is I don't know if I'm going to stay in California forever. I don't know that. I was self-aware at the time that it's expensive to live in California, that it's really hard to kind of move forward in a sense. You kind of feel like you're just getting from month to month, especially as at the time, 20-year-old who had no idea where he was going to go. But I made this decision. I made this decision to make the most of California. I was going to experience as much as I could of it while I had the time. And that one decision, that one perspective shift, completely flipped my life. Instead of hiding in my room in grief and sadness, I started to reach out. I started to make friends at the restaurant I was working at. I started to go out. I turned 21 around that time as well, so that opened up a whole new realm of social possibilities, which, as anyone knows who's turned 21, there's a whole different scene that opens up for you. So I started going out, and I hung out with more people, and I tried to learn how to surf. Still don't know how to do it very well. And I just kept trying all these different things. And it was like my whole horizon opened up. instead of looking at the world through such a narrow lens of me and this relationship and that's it, all of a sudden the world opened up. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a beautiful place. There's so many things to do. The ocean's right there. I've never lived near the ocean. Oh my gosh, it's sunny and 70 year round. What is this? And I just started grabbing life by the reins, which anyone who knows me, I'm obsessed with living. I hate being stagnant and not changing or not growing. I have no patience for it, to the detriment of myself in some relationships sometimes. But that drive in me just kept pushing me forward in California. It kept pushing me to discover new things and discover more about myself. I rediscovered my own spirituality, which I had lost in that relationship. I started to see angel numbers again. I started to just look at the world through a lens that my soul needed. Just felt like I was waking up to who I was again. And a lot of times when that happens, you're reminded of the way you were as a kid. I mean, a lot of the ways that I associate with who I am is through who I was as a kid. And a lot of those came back to me. And I started to meditate more and kept journaling and started to go to the gym and try and gain weight. Still working on that one, by the way. But I felt freer than I had in a long time. And I think, I know, along that, awakening of my spirit, I have this very distinct memory that I will never forget, where there was someone at the place I was working that I just was drawn to. I still can't explain it to this day, but it was like, imagine if you're in a room of thousands of people and everyone's moving and walking around and in their own worlds. That was silent to me. And I just remember looking at her and going, there's something. I feel drawn to you. I don't know why. There's something about your soul underneath this rough exterior that she showed everyone, underneath this, excuse my language, bullshit that she was showing the rest of the world. I saw something, and I didn't know what it was. Honestly, I couldn't have predicted what it was, but I knew I was drawn to it, and I knew something was pulling me towards it. So I pursued hanging out with her, and a lot of times she would push off the notion, and eventually, as I used to tell her, I'm going to chip away at that. I'm going to chip away. Eventually I did, and we hung out more, and we would go to the gym together. I have such a distinct moment at the gym where it was such an innocent moment. We were just hanging out. She was just talking to me. And I was really watching angel numbers at this time. And I looked up at the clock. And the gym clock had not only hours, but minutes and seconds. And in that one moment, it said 11, 11, 11. That many ones, which usually when you see that, or at least what I associate with it, is it's like a divine calling in that moment. And I knew that my soul was leading me towards something, and God validated me in that moment. And so I kept pursuing that feeling in me, that knowing. I kept talking to my friends around me, and they were like, you are crazy. And I kept telling them, look, I'm going to date that girl. We are going to be together. I just knew it. And I knew that we were meant to be together. I just knew that. And I kept chasing that feeling, and she kept pushing me away. I'd write her. I remember one time I confessed my love to her, and she heard it, but she politely said, like, I'm not there. And it hurt, but I ended up getting to this point with her where my certainty didn't have a deadline. If it happened tomorrow or it happened in 10 years, I knew it was going to happen. And I started to accept her as a friend, really accept her as a friend, and just enjoy that. And enjoy the love I had for her, and the soul that I was learning, and the person I was learning her to be. And then suddenly in fall of 2024, things started to shift. And for those who've like entered a relationship, you just know it. You kind of feel the shift happening, like the momentum is starting to build towards a relationship. And I felt that. And she kept kind of denying it, but I just felt it. We were hanging out a lot more. I started to stay on her couch a lot, just overnight. Nothing weird, just two friends. And eventually in February of 2025, we started dating. And that past year took me on a journey I wouldn't have predicted. Really, I wouldn't have predicted. It was one of the hardest years of my life. And just throughout the year, I had so many things that happened that challenged me, whether it was in my own house and the roommates I had, or the way my ego was reacting to the relationship and getting triggered in ways that were so dormant and I hadn't addressed, that I just was confused at what was happening, because it's not what my soul actually felt. And just entering a relationship opened up all kinds of emotional triggers and doors that I just didn't know I had from my past trauma, just in life and in relationships. And I felt like I couldn't find my footing when we were dating. I just was so all over the place. Felt like I didn't know how to love correctly. I felt like the expectations were too high. I'm a chronic perfectionist, so it was hard, and I hurt her a couple times too, just in my reaction to things, by not being as supportive as I know I could be, or not being as receptive to things as I could be, by not understanding myself enough, and stress creeping into the relationship, both on my side and her side. And just over the past year, we stayed together, but it was rough. That's the best way I can explain it. And eventually I'll bring her on to this show, because she's such an important part of my life, and I think she has some great experiences and perspectives to share, that it was hard for both of us. And a lot of times we didn't feel understood, and a lot of that is because we're very different people. And a lot of times in those type of relationships, those differences can bring you together, or they can tear you apart. And there were times it brought us together and we were unstoppable, and times where it was tearing us limb from limb. And that's just the truth. But we always had such deep love for one another. And the stress just kept mounting, and we both just felt like there was no way out. And debt was keeping up, and the house was weighing on me, and jobs were weighing on me. I started a job towards the end of the year that I was in the highest position I'd ever been in, which was I was a manager at a restaurant, and I learned a lot at that position, but that was 50 plus hour weeks on top of another caregiving job that I was doing, and it just wasn't sustainable. And towards the end of the year, we were doing okay, and I think I thought we were doing okay. And in my life, I had a vision for the next year of 2026. And suddenly on December 28th, I suddenly lost that job. I was just in a really deep state of shock. And going into 2026, I was like, what? Now that I don't have this job that defined my whole life towards the end of that year, what do I do? What do I want to do? And that's when this idea that had been itching at me for so long, and that itch was incessant. That itch, the fact that I was not pursuing this made me so unbelievably miserable in that job. I can't even explain it. When you feel called to do something like I feel called to make this and to embrace this creativity and share or try to share these experiences in the most vulnerable way I can, it literally is like, it was the same way I felt about her. And that's why I knew there was something drawing me towards it. But when you don't pursue that, you feel like you are lost. You feel like the world is tearing you apart. You feel like your soul is getting ripped. I can't begin to explain how miserable it is to know what you want to do, but to not pursue it. So now that this job had ended and the world had opened up, I could. And I started to refocus my life. I was like, okay, well, I want to make this the year of real. And I want to do all these other things, but I need to focus on real. I need to build my life around that, or refocus my life. And the burden of financial stress became apparent in California. I love California. I love it deeply. I would live there right now if I could, but financially I was in really, really deep crap. And I needed a way out, or I needed a way to reset, refocus, to support my dreams and ideas in the future. Otherwise, I was going to be stuck in this cycle of working a job endlessly to just make ends meet. So I had the opportunity to come back to Colorado to save a lot of money and really take a step back to take a few steps forward that oftentimes a lot of people, especially my age, don't have the privilege to. So I made the hard decision to go, I need to do that. I need to go on that journey. And at the same time, me and her looked in the mirror at our relationship and where we were both going, which was I needed to go back to Colorado to save money. She also needed to go back home to save some money, and also recognizing that we both needed to grow as people in order to really have the relationship that we wanted between each other. That we needed to heal some things as a part of ourselves. We needed to take some individual time alone to really step forward into a relationship with a better approach, with a better understanding of ourselves and what relationship we wanted. And that did mean ending the relationship and having no certainty that we'd ever come back. There's a ton of love between me and her. I cannot tell you how much I love her. If I think about it too much, I will. And this is why it's a show. I was at a picnic table and got a little interrupted while I was telling probably the most emotional part of my story. So, just had some lunch, and now we are going to head to the car in a little bit more private setting, because to be honest, when it comes to these deeper emotional things, I'm pretty guarded. I've gotten way more comfortable on camera, but around people in public, it's it's a no-go for me. So, on to the car we go. Okay, and where were we? So, basically, I cannot tell you how much I love her. And on top of that, how hard it is to make a decision like that. For two people to reflect and be self-aware enough that, hey, I have enough love for you and want the best for you that I'm going to let you go. And that was both sides. She let me go to Colorado and letting her do whatever she needs to do in California. And the hardest part is leaving people like that, because I cannot tell you how much she changed my life. She awakened something in me that will never go away. And a lot of times, I call her my angel because of that. And I know we are just going to stay connected because we have such a strong friendship, but it's really hard leaving. You know, it's hard leaving a place that you've connected to so many people at. And it was a very hard goodbye. And in the sake of what I want this to represent, how vulnerable I want to be with you all, I'm just going to let that moment play when I was driving off from saying goodbye to her and making the initial drive, starting that drive, because I was very emotional. And throughout the past 30 days, I've been filming the process of what I've been going through with the move and letting go of things, and I was really trying to hold off my emotions and then they just boiled over in that moment. But that's the hardest thing about a transition like this, is with the story that played out over those 3 years, a time in my life that changed me forever. Literally, I went through one of the closest I'd been in a long time to rock bottom. There's a time in the past that I consider my rock bottom, and that's a story for another time. But the closest I had gotten, and I had to rebuild an entire life in states away with no family, no one. And I built it. I did it. And for those who have gone through that, it's like, if any of you are still in your hometowns, I respect your desire to stay. I just encourage you to leave for a little bit. Because when you are put in a position where you have to build a life, you learn so much about yourself and who you are and what you can do. And it's that type of experience that can carry you into whatever battles internally and externally that you go through throughout your entire life. Like, I am walking into this phase of my life, this era in Colorado, with such a focus, certainty, and determination that is unmatched from previous times in my life. There's such an intention to this transition that I'm in but that whole intention is because of what I went through in California. That life-altering experience, those life-altering decisions to awaken my soul, to follow experiences, to put myself out there, to be open-minded, to embrace a calling when it comes to my soul, to be willing to make mistakes, to be willing to care, to be willing to put my all into things that I probably shouldn't have. If there's anything that you will take from my story, which I think I could touch on deeper than I even have today. But if there's anything that I could share with you, and I'd like to end every single episode with a space of reflection. I want you to hear stories. I want you to hear experiences. This is a story of my feelings and what I've gone through and the pain I've felt recently. The struggle of making a decision you don't want to do, but you need to do, and that you feel called to do. And following that. How hard it is to strip away from comfortability into a risk that you don't know if it'll work. Because I don't know if I'll go back to California. I really want to. I have ideas and dreams of going back to California, but I don't know. I don't know if I'll see those people again. I think I will. I really do. But understanding that perspective, like, I made a decision at one point to experience as much as I possibly could because I knew my time in California was going to end at some point, and now it's ended. And the reason I look back on those 3 years and go and have so much love and admiration for those years is because I made that decision. Because I didn't waste time.